Sex parallel, we are on the Zoom. Okay. I don't have.
It's okay, Joe. Joe, I can
We're all
hear you
set.
on the mic. Carl's here. We're ready to go.
Ready to go?
Yep, we got people on the Zoom here. Looks like we have our
All right, let's get started. Russ, can you hear me on Zoom?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Great, great. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's public forum on the new high school, Burlington High School and Tech Center. My name is Joe White. I am with the firm White & Burke Real Estate Advisors. We are the project manager for this project. And the topic of tonight's public forum is to present an update on the schematic design drawings. And then we'll give you an opportunity to provide input. We want to hear your input, your ideas, your recommendations, so that the design team can consider that as they work further into the next phase of design. The way we're going to run the meeting tonight is Superintendent Flanagan's going to kick it off for us with a brief welcome and introduction. We're then going to have one of our architects on the project walk us through the schematic design drawings. After that, we're going to have a Q&A session so you can ask some questions. Before we then break into groups, we've got some tables set up in the back. We'll have a full set of drawings at each of the tables, and this will be an opportunity for the public to talk directly with a design team member, ask further questions, but more importantly, provide your input. Let us know your thoughts, your ideas, your recommendations, and we'll be jotting that down on the plans so that the design team can bring that back with them and consider all that information as they work further on the design of the new building. So with that, I'll hand it over to.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, so welcome and thank you all for being here, both in person and online. I know it's the middle of the summer, so thank you all to the team who's here to present to the community, and also community members who are here to get more information and ask questions about where we are. This is a recorded event and will be posted on our online so that people, if there are people who view this after the evening tonight and have questions, they should please feel free to reach out so that we can continue to answer questions. If you don't have a chance to ask your question tonight and you're viewing this later, we want you to know you can reach us. So reach out to the superintendent account, which is superintendent@bsdvt.org, and we will direct you in the right place for questions. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. So we're going to start with a brief project background, and that is that in April of 2022, the BSD presented 5 conceptual design options to our school board and to the community. And you can see the 5 options behind us. The school board ended up choosing option C, which is the least expensive option of the 5 options, and also the option that we thought created the best campus feel, had the most efficient design, and struck the right balance between a great school design and also a design that was mindful of the impact that this project will have on taxpayers. And so we're really being intentional to strike that balance, and knowing that this is a 100-year or so building. And so we know we need a really good building for our community. And so we're really working hard to strike that balance. If we go to the next, we're on the next slide. We're on the next slide. As I said, the school board selected option C, and that final schematic design will provide in July, headed toward a more specific schematic design in July that will provide more detail on the design. So you can see sort of the high level here, and we'll go through some of the detail later later tonight. One of the things that we learned through the process of going through the conceptual design phase, which this is an example of one of the conceptual designs, is that we realized that we needed to remediate and remove the materials from Burlington, the old Burlington High School on Institute Road, before we move into a new building. And that was important because it's important that we kind of have the building in a space. Ultimately, it will be a cost savings too, that allows us to situate it between some of the ledge rock that's behind the space, the building, and some of the sand that's down toward Institute Road. And also that it's far enough away from North Ave, that it sits on Institute Road for flow of traffic and for accessibility. And so that was new to us. We learned that we would need to shift the remediation and removal to the beginning of the project. And that remediation and removal is currently estimated at $29 million. So we're in a position where we need to act now to make sure that we meet our timeline of an August 2025 building. And that is a really important timeline because we have a lease at the current building we're in, but that lease doesn't go forever. And so we do need to be in a building in school year 2025. And so it's important that these initial timelines we meet. I want to make sure people realize that we're not rushing, and we are moving thoughtfully through this process. And we have to make sure that we're overcoming hurdles in the early stages of the process so that we don't get held back, because inability to finalize decisions early in the project sets you back more later in the project. So we've been working to be flexible in this design. So as you can see on the next slide, the original plan prior to June, or prior to June 22nd, was the option C, and that option which cost 81, or the estimate was $81 million, $181 million, plus the $30 million in cost of remediation and removal, created a $200 million project, $210 million project. And that's our best estimate. The numbers will become more precise as we move into schematic design, but this is the best estimate that we have right now based on everything we know. We do have funding to bring to the project already. And so we have $10 million in ESSER funds that we are going to set aside from the American Rescue Plan. We have $5 million that we can set aside from district surplus. We've already set aside a portion of that. And we have $10 million that we can set aside from the capital plan in 2017 that did include some funding for BHS. But we would be utilizing those funds to support this project, because this project came about after we received the support for the capital plan, and it still fits within the spirit of the capital plan if we are not using all of those funds from that plan. So that, with the assumption that there's a $150 million bonding cap, which the city has told us there is some flexibility around, left a $35 million gap between what we could bring to bear as a district and the overall cost of the project, assuming the $150 million bond. And so that led us to make some decisions to update and adjust the project. And so what we decided on June 22nd was, was to relocate the programs that we have in our technical center, in Burlington Technical Center, that have high bays. So they have the doors that open to the ceiling. They are bigger spaces than a typical classroom space, and they have a lot more, there's a lot more work that needs to go into the infrastructure around them, including the loading docks up to those. So moving those out saves funding. We are committed to BTC, and so is the region. I've spoken with superintendents in the region, and our regional advisory board and our school board, and as a district, we know it's important for students to have opportunities and that access to the technical education that we are able to provide. And at the same time, we know we need to shift on the plan at Institute Road, and at that fortuitously, during that time, we learned that there's an opportunity at the airport. So our aviation teacher, Moses Daly, and our outgoing BTC director, Jason Gingold, sought a grant from Senator Leahy. Senator Leahy Leahy's office awarded us a grant of $10 million to build at the airport. And so we have been in conversation with the airport and with Beta on building our BTC programming for those programs that have high bays, like the aviation program that currently exists, advanced manufacturing, pre-tech, and maybe automotive. Those programs fit within the airport, the realm of aviation, right? So there's a natural fit there with the work that's happening at the airport, particularly as it relates to Beta coming in and meeting a long-term plan and long-term partnership around workforce development. And we know workforce development is an important part of the long-term health of our state. So I think this does a number of things. It puts our students closer to the work that's actually happening. It saves money on the project at Institute Road, and it helps us build workforce development, build the sort of long-term health of the state, and also our students. So with that left us with is that the last one? You move to the next slide, please. Oh yeah. So with that sort of left us where we are. And tonight, Carl Franceschi from DRA is going to talk about the designs. He's going to give an update on where we are with the schematic design work. And then we have people here at the table to be able to ask questions. After that, we'll be able to break and look at the designs in more detail. And so with that, I'll kick it over to Carl.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Flanagan. Can everyone hear me there in the room?
Yes.
Great. I'll sort of pick it up from there as well, just to quickly show, at least physically, what the changes to the Concept C plan look like. This was the previous site plan showing kind of a linear building along parallel to Institute Road, with the high school's main entrance and the tech center's entrance fronting on Institute Road, and with the service area behind. But with and this is what it looked like three-dimensionally. Basically, the building sits on a sloping site, and it's a 4-story building on either end, although there are 5 levels technically to the project, but the 4 levels are kind of offset at each end of the building. Without those high bay shops that the superintendent referred to, the footprint of the building has been consolidated and has shrunk on the site, but we've retained the basic elements of Concept C, of option C, that, you know, the building is still parallel to Institute Road, with the major access running east and west. The tech center still fronts on Institute Road and has its entrance there, as does the high school. But without the need for that service area, you can see that it's given some flexibility to the footprint. And actually, when we look at this sort of schematic site plan here, again, Institute Road is at the bottom of the slide. With a consolidated footprint, it provides not only future expansion for the high school, which we always have designed in as a prudent measure, but now it allows for future expansion at the tech center end of the building as well, while still providing, you know, a simpler, more straightforward loading dock, still maintaining a lower level entrance and an upper level entrance from both buses, cars, public transportation, the student parking in the front, and then the newly developed parking on the uphill side of the building as well. The other thing that this diagram shows, which has become more and more important as we've moved through the design phases, are the connections between the school and the outdoors. And we want to show that not only does this concept have a courtyard, which provides some outdoor space, but immediately in several key strategic areas around the building, there are opportunities for outdoor exterior classrooms and sort of extended learning spaces, including the Arms Forest itself too, which has trailheads that connect right into this area. So we're happy with the way the plan has progressed, and it seems to, as we say, capture all the same elements of option C and does it in a more compact footprint now. Here's a little more detailed footprint that's being developed right now as part of the schematic design package. You can see those entrance elements, the main entrance off this drop-off loop where there's visitor parking adjacent and pedestrian connections and bicycle entrances, connections from North Avenue, both from the north and south, and as well as from the lakeside bike path as well. And then to the west here of the building is the tech center entrance, and there's bike parking at each of these entrances, by the way, to distribute the 200 some bicycle parking spaces that are being provided, including some which will be covered in addition to ones just out in the pavement. And then from the uphill side, which is primarily faculty parking, but it will also be event parking when there's an event in the auditorium or in the gymnasium. There's that uphill entrance, and again, there's a plaza there and an opportunity for some outdoor activities related to the school. There's taking advantage of the sloping site. You can see there's a couple of amphitheaters, one here on the east end, one here on the west end, that we envision being able to be carved into the slope fairly easily and performing a function of retaining walls, but also providing some outdoor enclosed space. And then, as we said, there's a more modest loading dock here. Every school still needs one. We don't need the extensive service area, though, now that those high bay shops are being relocated to the airport. I'll just quickly go through the floor plans with you. The colors on here generally refer to the functions of the spaces. This is, as we said, there are 5 levels to the building. We refer to it as a four-story building with a lower level. That lower level, because of the way the site slopes, is the entrance for the tech center, immediately adjacent to some reception area there. It's also a separated, dedicated entrance for the alternative high school programs that are located on the site, called On Top and Horizons. But the main entrance here is on the first level. It is at grade. It is fully accessible by, car, bus, pedestrian for visitors, and is the main entrance immediately adjacent to the administration area. And it brings you into this large yellow area on the plan, which is really kind of the heart of the building. It's called the Commons. It's sort of a glorified cafeteria, but it's much more than just a dining space. It's a student assembly space. It's the lobby for both the auditorium and the gym, as it sits in the center of those 2 major functions. And it really will be a center of student activity, and it is surrounded by not only administration areas, but student support areas too, conveniently located, counseling and so forth on each of 3 levels through the building here. And you can see the main east-west corridor here that helps organize the building with those functions, as we said, in the center of the building of the auditorium, the commons, cafeteria, and the locker room and gymnasium on the left-hand side here. There's some special ed functions on this level, particularly those intensive special needs that benefit by being obviously accessible and at grade. here, don't need to use an elevator. They're near the nurses and the office area, as well as student support. And the music programs are located at the same level at the stage in this school, as opposed to the way they were on Institute Road. Much more convenient here. And the auditorium, by the way, is a sort of a vertical stacked space where it connects on 3 levels, actually. This first level is the level of the stage and of one entrance point, but there's also an entrance at the second and third level into this space. On the left-hand side, as we said, on the first floor, you can see some of those Burlington Tech Center spaces. We're still resolving a couple of issues there in regards to some of the program. We believe we have the right space here. We're still working on some detailed layouts as we talk with staff and teachers. And you can see in this corner of the building is the main receiving for the school on the same level as the kitchen, the serving area, and the dining area. As we move up to the second floor, again, you can see the large common space in the center. There are a few holes in the floor to bring light down to the lowest level, but this is the upper level entrance from those upper tiers of parking, comes into another small lobby space here that serves the back side of the auditorium at this level. Is also the entrance level to the gymnasium. The gym, as you can see on this plan, has not only a varsity basketball court, which with bleachers and 2 sort of cross courts, but on the left-hand side is what we're calling the community gym. It has a dedicated entrance. It has a solid folding partition, which can close it off after hours, and it has a different floor material, a more multi-purpose kind of floor, so that it functions not just as a basketball court, though you can see it, that's the size of it, but it could be for indoor practices. It could be for other special community events where street shoes are welcome, as opposed to the traditional wood athletic floor in the gymnasium. Again, the same organization with that major east-west corridor. Now you can see all the academic spaces on the east end of the building. We have sort of a nice mix of not only science classrooms, academic classrooms, special ed rooms, teacher planning areas. Administration is located on every level of the building as well, distributed through the building. You can also see we have smaller spaces too, something that is lacking in the old Institute Road High School, some small group rooms, some of these alcoves off of corridors that become extended learning areas in the corners of the building. And one other thing to point out too, that connection to the outdoors, we've worked hard to, at the ends of all these corridors, to provide some glass that you can provide not only natural light, but view to the forest and view to the world beyond, so that there's always kind of light at the end of the tunnel here, that we don't have dead ends in that sense. On the left-hand side of the plan, you can see the tech centers there wrapping around the gym again on this next level here, with some of the healthcare and again, some administration that's distributed on every floor of the tech center as well. And in the back side of the building is some of those services, electrical and mechanical and custodial spaces in building storage. Going up to the third level now, you can see that the gym drops away here. It's a high space. There's no floor at the third level. Likewise, the auditorium, but there is a balcony in the back of the auditorium, so you can access that from the third floor level. And all 3 levels of the auditorium are fully accessible to wheelchairs as well, we should point out. And again, in the center of the building in the commons is what we're calling the library/learning commons. It's a little bit different than a traditional library, a little more open. Obviously, there's not as much reliance on books anymore with the availability of resources through computers, and the library functions more as a collaboration space, as a study space. And so it has large open areas, but it also has computer labs and makerspace and study rooms off of it as well. And the large white square in the middle is a hole in the floor there that with a skylight above to bring light down to the lower levels. So the center of the building will be flooded with natural light. The academic portion, again, on the third floor, mirrors the second floor again. So each of these floors function somewhat like a small learning community. It kind of breaks down the scale of the high school. We also have, as we say, a variety of room sizes, not just traditional classroom sizes, but smaller half-size rooms called seminar rooms here, in addition to the smaller group rooms and even the individual offices. And then one other feature that we should point out on this floor is the multi-purpose room here. We've given it the name of the forum. It's kind of an alternative presentation space for about 200 in the audience. The main auditorium seats 750, but this smaller group is 250 seats and a flat floor, but with retractable auditorium seating around it. It really provides a lot of flexibility, which was a strong principle that we heard from the very beginning of the visioning sessions for this new school. And then the wing here to the left of the commons is the art wing, with a suite of rooms there, and then the balance of the tech center on this upper floor, the third floor, which is actually the fourth level of the tech center. And then there is a fourth floor to the building, but it's just at this end here. Again, it repeats the small learning community academic suite of space. We also are proposing, because we're one floor above now, there's a walkout opportunity here where we can actually extend the learning space here as well with a roof deck. Maybe have a bit of a vegetated roof near the edge, obviously railings and safety and kept in mind, but it'd be wonderful views from this height towards the lake, towards the athletic fields beyond. And it really expands and is another opportunity, as we've said, to bring the outdoors in. And then the roof plan, just to quickly show you the organization of the entire building, but to highlight not only that roof deck and some of the vegetated roof opportunities, but these yellow rectangles are solar panel locations, potential solar panel locations. We're working with the district and the city to understand the best arrangement. Most likely a third party will own those panels, and they'll be installed at some point, not necessarily as part of the base construction here. And then we're also being careful about where we're locating rooftop units that bring fresh air into the building, and how they're screened and organized on the roof. And then this blue square in the middle is that skylight I referred to that brings a lot of natural light down into the center of the building. And together with the courtyard, we can say that every educational space in this building will have access to both view and natural light, which again was a strong requirement of the program. And here's a three-dimensional view again of what the school might look like. It's still a work in process. We don't have all the detail on here just yet. We're still working on the site and so forth, but you can see the basic massing of it. And we're starting to refine the materials as well as part of the schematic design submission. You can see there's a fair amount of red brick, traditional red brick masonry, something we see, occurring in Burlington and is a very durable and traditional and local material that we'd like to continue to use. And you can see also that we're using the stair towers to help sort of organize the masses of the building, to break down the scale into a little bit more manageable sections. And those stair towers we envision being sheathed in sort of a wood tone panel, not natural wood, which requires a lot of maintenance, but having the same feeling and color of wood to bring a warmth to the building as well. And a couple other subtle things, stepping back the top floors in several locations to help with the massing, so that as a 4-story building, it doesn't feel overwhelming or out of scale with the site, and it more relates to sort of the sloping nature of the topography. And you can see that in the center of the building are those spaces that form the commons. The entrance with a very broad welcoming canopy on the first floor, and then the library learning commons with a sloped roof here on the top floor, that skylight in the middle, and then that multi-purpose space might have a similar but smaller sloped roof on the uphill side. And again, these not only the roofs, but the amount of glass there kind of announce the entries. And together with this angle portion, we think it presents a nice view as you turn in from North Ave and approach the building. Let me show you, let me show you that view here. As you turn in from North Ave, this is the view you'll see. Again, the red brick, the stair towers, the glass, that sort of key points at the end of the building facing North Ave, at the entrances, in the center of the building, to be both functional and bringing in natural light, obviously, but announcing the entries too. And just to go back to, these are elevation views. They're things that architects do to denote all the materials on the building, but three-dimensionally, we understand they're a little bit hard to read and to understand, but you get sort of a sense for the traditional organization of the building with vertically organized openings and in red brick masonry walls, the glass entry at the entries, the canopies, which will have wood on the underside again and be slightly sloped to be welcoming, kind of like outstretched arms, welcoming visitors into the commons. And then that feature on the east end of the building facing North Ave too, which kind of announces, the importance of this building to the community. So there again, there's the approach, and this is all going into a package that we're going to be giving to the cost estimators shortly, and putting together the sort of final schematic package and ready for the school board and the city council to review by the end of July, beginning of August. So that's where we are. Joe, I don't know if you want to speak to this as to the timeline and what comes next in the process. This is sort of the last slide before we go to questions and answers.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to do that. So our timeline over the next couple of months includes, so tonight, June 29th is the public forum on the schematic design. The design team will be finishing up the schematic design drawings by the end of probably this week, I believe, and delivering that to the district. They'll also be putting together a schematic design package, which they'll be giving to the cost estimators. And during the month of July, they'll be working on preparing a very detailed cost estimate for the project. On July 18th, the school district is scheduled to give another update to the city council. And then in early August, the school board will be reviewing again the final schematic design drawings, the cost estimate, and then we'll also be proposing or presenting a bond proposal based on that cost estimate for their approval. They will, once they approve that, they then have to forward that to the city council for their review and approval. And the plan is for them to approve the bond language on August 15th, so they can deliver that to the Secretary of State a couple of days later. And that is all going to be leading up to the bond vote on November 8th. And then again, our target move-in date is August 2025.
So I know you're going to have breakout rooms there in the library, Joe, but I wanted to mention to those people that are online that I will stay on the line, and I believe that we can manipulate the participation so that everybody can stay on the line, and those who want to ask questions, I'll be available on this end as well as those people in the room there.
Yeah, so I think that's a great segue to open it up for general questions from those that are in downtown BHS and those who are on sort of this call. This would be the time for questions and answers, as Carl said. And then if you have feedback on the plans or want to talk about sort of how they relate to you or high level things that you think the team is missing or is really headed in the right direction, that sort of feedback can be given in the breakout sessions. So if you're watching on the Zoom, you can either raise your hand or type your question right into the Q&A. And Tom, do you want to start in the room there if there's anybody, or I have a hand raised on the Zoom?
Sure. Is there anyone here who would like to ask a question? All right.
Wireless mic.
The schematics and floor plans, I have some questions. Okay, thank you.
Carl, did you hear that? Carl, can you bring up the floor plans?
Oh, okay.
And while you're doing that, we'll do a quick introduction of the folks up here, just so everyone knows who's here.
I already introduced myself, Joe White, with White and Burke Real Estate Advisors.
Tom Flanagan, I'm the superintendent.
Marty Spalding, I'm from PCI Capital Planning Construction Management Company.
Jesse Beck, architect with Freeman French Freeman, working closely with Carl and Carl Lindbergh Associates.
Claire Wool, Chair of the School Board.
Thanks. Hey, I'm Chris Hazley, a Ward 3 resident. So just if I understand correctly, it looks like there's probably about 5 or 6 means of ingress and egress on the first floor and then a second level entrance as well. I'm seeing some very long corridors in the various sections of the buildings that span from the towers of the stairways. Is there any like access control mechanisms contemplated for those hallways, you know, to limit access to prevent someone from walking the entire length of the building, or?
There definitely are. Security and safety obviously is a very, critical concern and one that we've kept in mind at every step here. And what you can't quite see on these plans are some of the cross corridor doors that would break up the, particularly for times of days or for events, say when we want the commons to be open because, there might be a basketball game going on in the gym or a performance in the theater, but we want to be able to close off these corridors at key locations so that people aren't wandering down into the academic areas or the tech center areas. And with the stairways providing egress, there's a nice sort of containment here in the commons. And so there definitely will be some cross corridor doors and some access hardware on a lot of these doors, not only the interior doors, but obviously the exterior doors as well, so that they could be locked remotely. There's a whole, discussion about security that we've sort of had at a high level, and we'll be continuing that in more detailed level in the next phases of the project. But basically, we anticipate that, as you mentioned, there are multiple doors in a school like this, obviously, but we envision that it's from an operational point of view, that after morning arrival time, all of the exterior doors, including the main entrance, can be locked. And all visitors will be directed to that main entrance and have to be buzzed in, be identified, and check in at the office. And so there can be, and we anticipate will be very clear kind of security protocols, but we'll be working on the details as we progress.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's take one from the Zoom, if that's all right.
We're going to have addition to that, and then we move to the next question.
Yeah, I think Joe was wanting me to explain a little bit about the jargon that we use. And we started out with concept design to arrive at a direction, which is past now. Now we're calling it schematic design, which is a phase where we try to make sure all the spaces represent the program that's desired, contains the massing, size, shape, floor plans. Once we get past this phase, we really get into the detailed design process, which is 3 months long, called design development, where we start to show all those doors. We integrate mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We refine the spaces that are shown in color even further with the occupants. And after that phase is one more phase called construction documents, where we're putting together all the build documents that really show all the nuts and bolts. So we got a ways to go, but this does show you the direction we're going in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. We're ready, Russ.
Great. Meredith, I'm going to have you ask your question, you'll have to unmute yourself.
The thing I like about.
Can you hear me now, Russ?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Nice to hear your voice, Meredith. I hope summer is going well for you.
So I'm glad I'm attending this even via Zoom because it does help me to appreciate the like limitless sort of questions and things that you all are having to consider. I was just wondering about the tech center, the part that's being moved possibly to the airport. And I was just wondering how families whose kids access those, like, are they excited about that? I mean, are they concerned about like transportation there, or is everybody pretty excited about that?
So I would say that we've received two things. First is we run a half-day technical center program right now at BTC. We may want to think about having more flexibility in the long term, some half day, some whole day. But this is where we are right now. And our students at BHS really appreciate having the opportunity to be BHS students and also be BTC students. So it's important for us to keep that ability, I believe, for students to do some of both of our programs. That being said, we do serve nine districts in the region that send students to us, and we are at the far end of the region. So bringing programming into the airport in South Burlington does bring that closer to the sending region. So I think there's a benefit there to the region that we serve. And we have heard from the Regional Advisory Board and our partners across the region that we should really be considering that. And that we should also really be considering programming that places students closer to the action, closer to what they're learning. And so if we can get to a place where the programming is literally next door to the work that's happening, you can imagine all of the opportunities for learning that could be really powerful at the airport. So I think in the end, we haven't heard a lot of concern about the movement that would need to happen in BHS, but we would need to plan for transportation just as we do now, as we transport students into BTC around the region from here, from downtown BHS. That's something that we also have some practice, and we would just really need to plan for it.
Thank you. I don't have anybody, any other questions on Zoom at this time.
Anybody else here who has any questions before we break out? All right, I think we're good, Russ.
Okay, so Media Factory, I think you can go ahead and stop recording. And then participants on Zoom, I will go ahead and make you panelists. And then you guys can talk and discuss.
Great, and then we're going to end from wherever your small group is. So we appreciate you all being here tonight. Want to reiterate that if you are watching this after it has happened, which I imagine many people are, like our Executive Director of Finance and Operations, who happens to be camping tonight, then we want you to know you can still reach out, right? And so I said at the beginning, please feel free to and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Russ, I did give the superintendent account as the outreach. Is that the best place for people to send their questions, or should we direct them elsewhere?
No, I think that's good. And just if people can just remain patient, there may be a couple of days here and there if people are off for the summer, but we will be checking that regularly and trying to answer as many questions as we possibly can.
So if you have any questions, and even for people here or online afterwards, please reach out to superintendent@bsdvt.org. and we will answer your questions. We aim for a 48-hour turnaround. We are, making sure that I'm encouraging staff over the summer after 2 really hard years to exercise work-life balance and to do that in the times when we don't have as many students in session. So as Russ said, there may be a little bit of a lag beyond that, but we will be watching that email closely and returning emails. And we look forward to your questions, and we want your questions. We need to hear the types of questions that are out there. It will make the program, the plan stronger. So thank you. Do you want to?